Okay, so you know how you'll hear the phrase "so dumb it works," and nowadays you roll your eyes to that statement as it seems it gets used far too often and generally used to justify a poorly written show that tried to be a little more than it could be. Yeah, it's annoying, I know. But honestly, I don't know how you could explain Space Battleship Tiramisu better than "so dumb it works." But before I label it as just that, let me break down why that's actually not a bad thing when it comes to this anime. Mechs are one of the few genres I'm fairly indifferent to. Now, some of my favorite anime of all time have them in their series, but to me a mech can be a nice addition, but I find far too often they get implemented in fairly gimmicky ways. Giant robots fighting can be entertaining, don't get me wrong, but often I'm taken back by what I'm seeing on screen and just zone out. This is a series that takes the plot points you'll see in a general mecha show and tells those arcs as if you're watching on 60 times speed, while having some of the most over-the-top comedy the spring 2018 anime season had to offer. See, the brilliance and stupidity of this series relies on its main character, Subaru. Now, Subaru is a man who loves his cockpit and everything that isn't work. When on serious missions to protect the universe, he'll find new and entertaining ways to never focus on the battle or general situations at hand and gets distracted by things only he could possibly care about. The first 6 episodes or so have the general mecha story of we're at war, let's protect our homeland, but I found the real purpose here was to just throw Subaru in ridiculous situations that kept getting weirder and weirder by the episode, but also to really hammer home that Subaru is a man you don't want to rely on for missions even if he is one of your best pilots. With the second half of the season, it fast forward through what most mecha anime would take 50 episodes to tell. This anime does it in just under an hour. From the long lost brother to the turn to the dark side plot point, the evil AI that tries to take over, to even slapping in some backstory about Subaru's father and his past, and the upcoming battle where he must face against people that he cares about. It's great how much it was able to tell in terms of the short runtime. Now granted, the story doesn't matter at the end of the day, but it's still entertaining to see what it managed to tell in terms of a very basic story and how it mirrors a lot of what mecha shows will tell over their 50 episode run, give or take. The series at times will have characters in the background hammer it in that this is important, it's life or death, lose and the universe is over, but the anime will always keep the focus on Subaru, the guy who has the attention span of a goldfish when it comes to serious situations. Now, general mecha shows have interesting enough plot mechanics, but I can't express how entertaining it was to have a main character from the very first episode not take this war seriously. At any time, this universe could end, and the viewer could walk out thinking, yeah, that was a satisfying ending. And somehow that works because your main character isn't someone you're really connected to, but rather you're interested in seeing more of just for the comedy. Subaru is what holds this show together 100%. All of the side characters are one-note elements in this anime that by themselves are pretty whatever and generally forgettable, but because they are engaging with Subaru, the scenes are almost guaranteed to be funny or at the very least entertaining. Subaru himself is also one note. He doesn't evolve past the initial image episode 1 lays out, but for 13 episodes, 7 minutes apiece on average, that doesn't matter. This was a parody of the mecha genre and somehow managed to actually make it stick out from other anime that have tried a similar approach. Now, this is no means a masterpiece. It's far, far from it. In fact, it's a very questionable show with many of the jokes or situations Subaru puts himself in sort of question what it is you're watching, such as him gaining this extra sense where he, no joke, talks to his pubic hair and has the best friendship you can imagine with said hair. Or my personal favorite joke when in the middle of racing to a battle, a police officer pulls him over for speeding and gives him a ticket, to which then he has to use the police mech to deal with an oncoming threat. On one hand, I'm thinking, you know, if they really did have mechs in space, you would think there would be some sort of law enforcement to protect ongoing travelers, so this sort of makes sense. But then on the other hand, I'm thinking, this is just so stupid and I absolutely love every single second of this. This is a series that everyone will know if they will enjoy from one episode alone, if not half of the first episode. This is a very select taste in terms of comedy. It's pure gag comedy that runs with a gimmick of the main character having no attention span for important situations, and it will parody many plot points that general mecha shows will use. But you don't even have to enjoy mechs to have a fun time with this, as though there are mech battles and they are the crutch to the series past Subaru, it's all situational comedy for most of this anime. Mechs are really there for the main character to just have a weird obsession with and to play around with that obsession. And the few times they are there just to have a fight scene, they are so basic and ridiculous that'll be over before you even blink half of the time. Short anime, especially comedy short anime, can be extremely memorable if you do the one thing you need to do well. For comedy anime running the full episode length, you have to have more than a gimmick and expand your characters and situations past a one-note momentum. With shorts, however, you have less expectations, at least for myself, because when I look at a runtime of 7 minutes, I don't expect a deep plot, character development, or masterfully crafted writing. I expect this will be bare bones basic, but if you find a way to entertain me, I'll pop back in for the next episode. This series did exactly that, having Subaru right away be someone who doesn't fit the mold of the super serious main character who wants to protect the universe, but more of the lazy, laid-back, I don't care about anything but my cockpit, who will find a way to focus on anything but the important tasks at hand. It's hard not to follow this funny little show. Now, if the comedy is too dumb for you and it doesn't entertain you, then obviously this will be one of the most forgettable messes out there. But because this is just a pure comedy anime, I think for every person who dislikes it, there will be someone who does enjoy this. The simplicity of the characters and story actually made this work out quite well for my taste. But in terms of the actual presentation, it's as basic as you would expect for a short anime. What's surprising, however, is typically with short anime I have watched in the past, they're more set in a home or school-like setting, so they don't really have to worry about much detail in terms of their scenery or just general character movement. But this being set in space with giant mechs that sometimes actually will fight, it's pretty impressive how decent this looks overall. Now, it's not amazing by any means, the only aspect that will stick out is the exaggerated facial reactions of Subaru, but credit where it's due, this actually looked like a fairly polished show for how short the anime actually is. I never once thought this looked overly basic or simple, but rather this looks fairly close to a standard anime with decent backgrounds and basic but acceptable animation. It's not bad at all. Now, sound-wise, the only thing I personally cared about was the main character's voice actor, who I think sold this character flawlessly in Japanese. The way I really bought into this man truly being obsessed over the littlest things and not just some actor reading a script thinking, what did I just sign up for, is simply wonderful. I think it would have been easy to have this voice actor be fairly forgettable, especially with how little I think he had to work with, but he managed to really sell Subaru as a real guy with a few too many screws loose in his head. But in terms of the little music that it had, I found it all pretty forgettable, even the opening song. Now, personally, I was just looking for Subaru to entertain me for 13 episodes, which his voice actor absolutely did, so that's fine in my books. Though don't expect some great OST like many mecha shows will have. I really just wanted to get my thoughts out on this anime because I haven't had a short series like this in quite a while be this memorable or one that I would go out of my way to recommend. It's nothing that will stay with me forever, but it will be returning for a second season in fall 2018, and with how much fun I had throughout spring, it's something that I wanted to highlight. I don't expect many who watch this review to change their minds on it if they did dislike it, but maybe I'll get a few people to give this one a shot and maybe they'll even enjoy it like myself. It's a select taste for sure, as are many extreme gag comedy series, but it was a highlight in the comedy department from the past season of anime, at least for myself. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, so dumb it works really is the best way to describe the show, and sometimes simplicity is best. I award Space Battleship Tiramisu my questionable seal of approval. A rating I give to a show such as this: it's a whole lot of fun, but it's not groundbreaking, and it's not really good or bad, but just a very fun and memorable short anime that the best word you might be able to describe it as is unique. And that's all it was really trying to be from the beginning, and that's why it's not a bad thing overall. Sometimes being down the middle of a show will actually work out quite well for you. But let me know what you thought of the series down in that comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like, and if you're new, also be sure to subscribe. As well, if you like what you see here and you want to help support what I do for as little as a single $1 a month, you can also head on over to my Patreon if you so wish. So until next time everyone, please take care and you all have a good one.